Hey there, welcome. This is the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Little known fact in our small town salute, I am the guy who started Parker. That's right. I also started Parker County, so you can give me credit for both. But hey, listen, it's another day, another weekend, another Joe Biden freeze. And while that's, technically not really a headline that's going to affect you, the other top story of the day, Joe Biden related, very well might. There are some people who, 4 different anonymous sources have leaked to CBS News that Biden is working on a new amnesty program. Details, doesn't even matter. Simon Hankinson, he's a senior research fellow at the Heritage Foundation, is going to be my first guest to explain it. So what are the rules? Who would get amnesty under this new supposed leaked plan?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead, Simon.
Sure. Well, it looks as if, and again, this is all speculative. I'm pretty sure leaked on purpose, but about 1.1 million people who are illegal aliens, resident here illegally, but married to U.S. citizens, would be allowed something that they've called parole in place, which is kind of a made-up program that they used once before for spouses of military and veterans, and now seem to want to expand to pretty extraordinary numbers.
I thought if you married a citizen, you already got legal status.
Well, if you marry a citizen and you arrived legally, then that citizen can petition for you as a spouse, and you can fairly quickly become a green card holder and then a citizen. But if you arrived illegally, if you snuck in, then you're not allowed to go that route. There is a route that you can go. You can request a waiver, but in the law says that you're supposed to leave the country for, depending on how long you've been living here illegally, either 3 years or 10 years before you can apply to come back in. There's sort of they try to put some penalties to stop people just sort of coming in and living illegally forever and then being able to just become citizens. So this is a way to just get around that completely.
So the idea that it was leaked at the same time anonymously by 4 people, I agree with you that this was intentionally leaked, but why not have Biden come out and say it himself? I think that betrays that they're not sure if this is going to be popular or not.
I'm so cynical at this point that I really believe that it, for them, is a calculus. If they lose 9 votes and win 10, then they'll do it. And if they lose 10 and win 9, then they won't. It's not really about what they believe in. It's about what they believe they can get away with. I think if they had their way, they would essentially open the borders to anybody who showed up, and they would amnesty everybody who's here illegally. That's the basic philosophy. But they also want to win the election. So it really comes down, I think, to that kind of calculus. What can they get away with to win the maximum or just the bare number of votes that they need? So
when they propose this new amnesty, is this going to supposedly be an executive order or a bill they try and push through the House and Senate?
Oh, no, there's absolutely no way they would get a bill through the House, the Senate in this case, maybe. But you saw what happened with H.R. 2, which is the last serious attempt to do anything about illegal immigration. That passed the House. Senate won't even take it up for a vote. And then the Senate came up with they called it bipartisan because I think there was a Republican who was willing to sign on. But that was, completely watered down and locked in a huge number of illegal crossings and just had a whole bunch of other stuff that would have been disastrous. So law is impossible. This is going to be rulemaking, executive order. He's just going to tell DHS to do what they did when they let in the Cuban, Venezuelan, Nicaraguan, Haitian, Afghan, Ukrainian, family unification, and all the other types of parole that they've made up since he started.
So how on earth does any of this pass constitutional muster?
Well, it doesn't in my view and that of a lot of most analysts, I would say, because the law, the way it's written, the Immigration and Nationality Act, does not permit parole on a mass basis, and it doesn't. It was never designed to parole people who are already here in the country. It was supposed to be for maybe a couple hundred people a year when they had to testify in a trial or for emergency medical care. And because it was abused in the past, in 1996, Congress locked it down even tighter, and they say it has to be for significant public benefit of the United States or humanitarian reasons, and then they qualified what those reasons might be. But if you leave a loophole, you can drive a truck through it, and then they say,
right,
go ahead and sue us. Yeah.
So, Simon, I am reading the minds of everyone listening right now, and everyone's going to like the third chess move on the board, and the fact that, hang on, if they amnesty all these people right now, will they be able to vote in November?
No, is the short answer. I mean, legally, no. I think there's always going to be a few. We have records here at Heritage of several thousand cases of people who voted illegally when they were not entitled to. That some of them are legal residents, some of them are illegal residents. But no, this would not allow all 1.1 million people who are, and it's a de facto amnesty. It's not an official amnesty, like they don't actually get legal status forever, but they just have an ability to apply for legal status. No, in theory, they couldn't all vote at once.
Okay, so what's the step that they really want in making all these people voters?
Well, I do think that it's part of the sort of Democratic Party's strategy long term to have people who come in vote for them. I think if the people coming into the United States illegally were all going to vote for Republicans, you would see a lot tighter border right now.
Sure.
But they're playing a long game. And I think they might be disappointed because we're starting to see that Hispanics are not a block any more than Black Americans or any other type of American are a block that you can just count on, and you can just shove everything down their throats and expect them to take it. You're seeing along the border in Texas, Hispanics who've been here for generations are starting to say, we don't actually want open borders.
I hear you. All right. Thank you very much, Sam Hankinson from Heritage Foundation, explaining some of this.
My pleasure.
All right. What do you think? Because, look, I got some ideas here. We got instead of just, giving everyone who's lived here for 10 years and gotten married amnesty here, let's talk about what we should do with the illegals who are already here. First, I'm just going to ask you flat out without any caveats, what do you think should happen to the illegals who are already here? Millions have come in the last few years. It's easy to say deport them all. But that's, besides being reductive, I don't think that's what would be best for the country. Some of these guys and gals need to stay. And I don't mean like, what if Ryan Gosling's paperwork expired, or do we kick out Luka Doncic's mom? I mean, like maybe what if we give them like an IQ test and keep the top 10%, right? Or we keep the ones that started a business that actually employs citizens. You don't want to kick them out because then some Americans are going to lose their job. So if you could put some rules on it, what would it be? Or would you put no rules on it at all? So that's what we're going to talk about in the next segment. What do we do with the illegals who are already here? To jump in on the conversation, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. This is a real question. What do you want to do with the illegals that are already here? Now, deport them all. Really simple. It's going to be hard. It's going to be expensive. There's going to be some negative consequences to the rest of us for doing it. But if that's your stance, that's a legit stance. I am not that hard on it. I think we want to deport most of them, but there are some exceptions to the rule that I'm going to go through. But I'd like to hear from you. I'm going to tell you my plan, but I would like to hear some plans from either you or some other people out there. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Because right now the Biden administration, they've got these plans. They tell you, they leaked out 4 different anonymous sources to the press. This is a trial balloon. This is a weather balloon. They're throwing it up there and they're seeing how well it polls. If it polls good, they'll go through with it. But make no mistake, they're not developing a plan like the CBS News says. They have the plan already out there. They just don't want to stick Joe Biden or Antony Blinken or any of the other actual members of the Biden administration behind the podium to say it out loud, because if it's not popular, it will be used against them. Anything you say can and will be used against you in an election year. See how that works? So they just floated out here for now. But make no mistake, they have an idea. They have some programs that they want to do. And so when they say a program's being developed by the White House, it's already there. They're just going to see if it flies. Unauthorized immigrants married to U.S. citizens, as long as they have lived in the U.S. for at least 10 years, they will get a path to citizenship, which means, in regular speak, amnesty. But listen, I know it's easy to say deport them all, But let me give you some other options, and maybe you can build on this, or maybe you can improve my raw ideas here. Because what if we give them an IQ test and we keep the smartest ones? What if there's some geniuses out there? What if there's like a Nikola Tesla? Because I don't want you to get stuck in the idea that so much of our immigration problem is just people walking across the border from Mexico and Central America and maybe even South America. There's millions of people who come here and are here illegally because they overstayed their visas. They're from all over the world. They're from the Germany. They're from the Ukraine. They're from Botswana. They're from everywhere, right? And not all these people need to go. If Nikola Tesla came here illegally, we would keep him. If Elon Musk came here illegally, we should keep him. Okay? But how do we know which ones to keep? Okay, this is where the rules come from. So I like the idea of an IQ test, and either we keep like the top 10%, or maybe anyone that has an IQ over a 130, or maybe it should be a 140. I don't know. What rules would you set? Or would you do the opposite? We take an IQ test and anyone under 100, you got to go. What if we kept the ones who started a business? A lot of them are entrepreneurial, and they're sort of pushed in that direction because of their illegal status. It's a little harder for them to get a job at a corporation or go work for somebody else if you have to provide paperwork and they actually follow up on it. It might be a little easier to just start your own business, and that's what a lot of them do. And here's a dirty little secret. A lot of them have started businesses, and they don't just employ other illegals. They employ legal citizens. So if we go kick them out, then there's going to be a lot of Americans that will lose their jobs. So maybe we just keep the ones who started a business. Or maybe we combine these. We do the IQ test, top 10%, or anyone over a 140 gets to stay. If you start a business that employs American citizens, you get to stay. But really, my question is, like, what other tests could we have? You know, because we do want to keep the ones who have proven themselves to be successful or accomplished somehow. We do want to keep the entrepreneurs. We do want to keep the people who have these real hard, high-tech jobs. That we want to keep, doctors and dentists and things like that. So I know we have a ton of people here who overstay visas, and a lot of them get a visa here to go to college or go to graduate school. And so we're talking about the smartest of the smart on planet Earth. We don't want to kick those people out. We don't want to we want to make them go work for NASA or SpaceX or something. But I'm thinking personally of a girl I knew way back in the day. I mean, this has got to be like 20-something years ago. I dated a girl whose roommate was from Italy, Sardinia. And she almost exclusively hung out with other people from Italy. And she was legal, but probably more than half of this giant group of Italians that all hung out were illegal. And no, they didn't go to Mexico and sneak across the border. They got a visa. They overstayed it. They got their college degree and they were supposed to leave, or they got their new paperwork got denied, or their renewal got denied, and they just stayed. And some of these dudes were from rich families. And so, they're sending them money and they're living a great lifestyle here. And America is better because of it. These aren't the guys that are committing crimes. These aren't the guys that are going to hospital and having 8 kids on the taxpayer dime. These aren't people who go to school and they make you start new ESL classes and drain resources like that. Some of these guys have created quite a bit of wealth themselves over here. We don't want them to take it back to the other side of the planet. It doesn't do us any good if it goes back to Poland or Sardinia. But they have a hard time getting a job. So I noticed it was common for them to start their own business. If they were going to be a lawyer, they didn't go to a big law firm. They started their own. So really, we just have to remember the focus of immigration policy shouldn't be to keep everybody out. It should be controlling the flow of people into this country in a way that benefits this country. So I want to know, what rules would you add? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Let's go to Enrique. Turn off that radio, or I'm going to deport you, sir.
They were going to be a lawyer. They didn't even go to a big law firm.
No. All right, so we should deport people who don't turn down their radio, like Garrett told them to. Junior and Anna, you're on the James Show. What do you think we should do with all the illegals that are here?
If they're illegal, they came into the country by breaking a law. You break a law, you don't follow the law, you don't get the opportunity to stay unless you pay a penalty and then do all the paperwork. And then if you choose not to do that, then basically we garner whatever funds you have, and we use it for border security. And basically that's it. I mean, you can't just have people come into the country and not do it the right way, because then that just incentivizes people to show up at our border. And then we're giving them benefits that we all work for, which we're not going to see all of our benefits the rest of our life, but they're going to get benefits now too. I mean, come on.
Okay, some of them are, and you're absolutely right on that part. But think of someone like an Elon Musk. Now, that's a ridiculous example, but just to make a point, he's from South Africa. What if we found out that he didn't fill out his renewal paperwork 10 years ago? Would America be better off if we kicked his butt out and confiscated all his wealth?
Does the rule of law mean anything?
Yes. However, we're the ones making the rule of law in my hypothetical situation here. I'm asking you what the law should be. And, the rule of law can change. We have the ability to reform, add, or delete existing laws. Are you still with me?
I get what you're saying. I mean, it makes sense in a hypothetical world. But, without having rules and rules getting broken, if you want to have leniency in some way, then make it a steep fine.
I like the steep fine idea because I like the people that complain about the steep fine idea, Junior, because they're like, well, then that means that means you can only be here if you're rich. It's like, yeah, that's a positive. Super rich people allowing them to stay in America is a net benefit for the rest of us. So the fine idea, even though you kind of may mean it as sort of a punitive measure, is actually really good at weeding out the people that we want to stay.
Right. Well, only those that are going to benefit our society are going to be able to pay that fine, right?
Agreed.
They benefit us.
See, we got a little common ground there. It wasn't everybody after all, now was it, Junior?
Well, if you can figure out a way to squeeze money out of a rock, I mean, why not?
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you very much, Junior and Anna. All right, we got some other good calls lined up, but you're welcome to call the show. I want to hear what you think we should do with all the illegals that are already here. 800-288-9227. Maybe we should make like a big Ninja Warrior course, and whoever wins it, they get to stay. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. We're asking the question, what should be done with the illegal immigrants who are already here because the Biden administration, or whatever puppet master's pulling his strings, has leaked to CBS News a new proposal that it's a whole lot of words, but it boils down to amnesty is what it is. They're just finding a chunk of people to give amnesty to that would be the most politically palatable. And I'm asking, what should you do? Now, look, if you're a person that thinks we should deport all illegals, I'm welcome to hear that. But I'm not that hard on it. There are some illegal immigrants that it would benefit America, me as a whole, if they stayed. And I was giving some examples, like a Elon Musk. If we found out his paperwork was not up to date, would it really be smart to deport him and kick out all his wealth? And no one else works for SpaceX or Tesla or any of the other 8 companies he owns. No, we don't want to kick him out. Also, if there was a dude who kicked like a 70-yard field goal and he was an illegal immigrant, let's get him amnesty immediately and sign him to the league minimum for the Cowboys. And that would be another, sort of caveat to the idea of let's just deport all of them. But what do you want to do? 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. This is Mike in Rockwall. What do you think we should do?
Hey, James. Thanks for taking my call. I think that if they pay taxes and they're from this hemisphere, maybe we should let them stay as long as they're not on the government dole.
Why this hemisphere? Do you mean North Hemisphere or Western Hemisphere?
I mean the Western Hemisphere.
Why do they get preference?
Well, because all the terrorism and stuff is coming out of the Middle East and the Far East and Russia, and so I'm not so threatened by the people from Paraguay and Brazil and stuff. Not so much, but we can't. Those guys from the Middle East and such. They're intelligent. They have high IQs. And they use that high IQ. They get well-paying jobs and stuff, and they can hide well. But they're subverting our freedoms and our very viability as a country. I think that they need to pay taxes. It need to be a means tax. Like you didn't make $30,000 and pay your taxes on that $30,000. Well, then you're sucking out the money from this country that we don't have to give to newcomers, as they want to be called. Other than that, I'd say deport them all. But, if there's going to be a line where these guys get deported and those guys don't, I think it ought to be keep it to this hemisphere get rid of the gang members out of El Salvador and things like that the best you can by vetting. And if they don't have a job and they're not paying taxes, and prove they're paying taxes, because a lot of people get jobs and collect cash and don't pay any taxes. So if they're not adding to the coffers of the country, that means they're a burden on us who've been here and paying our taxes, and we just don't want them and don't need them. Even the guy that mows my lawn pays taxes.
Interesting stuff. I'm still stuck on the geography of your preferences, though, because, yeah, there's a lot of people that we regret having come here from the Middle East. Think of a 9/11 or the San Bernardino Christmas party that got shot up, or the Waukesha parade massacre. Okay, there's some negative consequences from those people, but there's also negative consequences, like you even said, El Salvador, MS-13. There's negative consequences of that. There's no one from France or Spain or Ireland that's doing terror attacks or anything like that, nor are they members of hardcore criminal gangs like MS-13. There is not a Irish equivalent of MS-13. So why are you cutting them out?
Well, frankly, their numbers of illegal crossing is not near the number as of the Middle East, the Far East, China, Russia. So you don't have, when they list all the different countries and how many people coming over here, you don't see France on there, or England, or even Italy. It's just not there. So that's not really our problem. I'm trying to fix the problem, not if some people get unfairly isolated or not allowed to come in, well, that's just the way it is.
Good stuff. All right, Mike and Rockwall, you gave me a lot to think about there. Yeah, if you're paying taxes, basically, Mike and Rockwall is cool with you. And also, the Western Hemisphere is another one of his. What's yours? Let's take another call here. This is Philip. Philip in Keller. You're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. What should we do with illegal immigrants?
Well, first off, I think we've got to ensure they haven't committed any crimes. So I don't see keeping anyone that's committed crimes. I think paying taxes is the next thing we have to consider. They have to be a productive member, so they have to be self-sufficient. They can't be on the government dole. I also think that they should have to pay a fine that should go to securing our borders for the future, because there are a lot of people that came here legally that went through the process that took years to go through that, and it really wouldn't be fair for someone to come in illegally and jump in line in the system. So I think someone that got here illegally should have to pay a fine that goes to or designated to securing the border to prevent these problems in the future.
I'm not hearing a whole lot of hardcore, deport them all kind of guys. I'm hearing if you can pay a big old fine, maybe we'll let you stay. Is that where you're standing?
Well, pay a fine and support yourself. I don't want to support a population from a insane asylum or a prison that's going to be a drain on society. But if someone wants to come here and work and pay their taxes and be a productive member of the community, I think those are the type of people that the country needs.
I hear this a lot, and I'm not accusing you of anything of Philip, but for those of you who are worried about them draining resources from the public trough, why don't we just start by not letting them take part of them in the first place? If you're an immigrant, legal or otherwise, you probably shouldn't get free public school or Medicare or Medicaid or health care or anything out of the taxpayer dole. It'd be a lot harder to gripe against them if they didn't. In fact, that's one of the main problems that we have in Texas with all the illegal immigrants is the drain and resources they are on our schools and our healthcare system. And, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, take that same mindset and we could just apply it today and think of how many fewer people would come here if not for all the handouts that they get at your expense, Philip.
I completely agree. That's a problem that should have been addressed a long time ago, from free tuition to free health care. Our generosity over the years has created this problem somewhat ourselves by what we've allowed to continue without somebody stepping in and saying, okay, enough. We've given away the farm now. All we're doing is attracting more. We need to put a stop to this and get it back to the legal system. It's pretty difficult to have an illegal and a legal system simultaneously, and somehow the people that are trying to do this legally have been completely forgotten in the process.
Love it. All right. Thank you very much. That's Philip in Keller. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a brain health coach because there's a story on out of the Houston Chronicle that says extreme heat and humidity can take a toll on your mental health. I'm not so sure about that one. We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, Joe Biden was at a fundraiser in Hollywood. He had another freeze moment. Some of the biggest celebrities known to man were out there supporting the incumbent president in his reelection bid. You know what? I think I might play for you tomorrow. Jack Black, he had a few minutes to say a few words on stage. Doesn't really fit in here. It'd be its own little separate topic, but I think I'm going to have that on tomorrow's show. And I have to separate the art from the artist when it comes to these situations. And all you people who like to boycott people who disagree with you politically, man, that's tough for me. Number one, I'm a libertarian. So if I only listen to libertarian music and watch movies that were starring libertarians, I could watch what? Like Vince Vaughn and listen to Muse, I suppose. There's not a whole lot of options for me. I think Billy Corgan is in my political team, so maybe I could listen to Smashing Pumpkins, but I wouldn't be able to watch anything. We're only 2% of the population. So I've never had a big enough team to where I could even think about doing the boycott thing. But one of the things that upsets me is when, like Robert De Niro goes out and says horrible things about Trump, is how many people who are on Team Red who's like, oh, he's a washed up actor. He's a terrible actor. Anyway, he's not terrible. He's a great actor. He just came to a different political conclusion, and I didn't expect him to be politically smart to begin with. That's not his wheelhouse. That's not his area of expertise. I don't expect him to have good political opinions any more than I expect the guy mowing my lawn to be able to do heart surgery. I mean, these are two different things. But that aside, the real story that comes away from it isn't what the people on stage were saying, isn't the content of the event itself. It's this moment where he's going off stage, and at the end, there's sort of the farewell, and there's a live band behind him, and they start playing the walk-off music, and it's Joe Biden in the middle. Jimmy Kimmel is on his right, the host of The Tonight Show, or the ABC equivalent, or whatever it's called. And on this left side, former President Obama. They start to walk off. They're waving goodbye as all three of them are walking off in a line, and they have Joe Biden in the middle, Jimmy Kimmel's in the back now, and Barack Obama's in the front. However, Joe Biden decides he's going to stop. Now, you can joke about why he decided to stop. Maybe he saw like a 8-year-old in the front row that he wanted to sniff really bad. But he stops and he keeps waving and kind of catches Kimmel and Obama off guard. And so politely, they're like, well, if he wants to take a second, we're not in a hurry. We could take a second. We'll just stand here and wave too. But we're supposed to be walking off. So after about 8 seconds of him just frozen, just deer in headlights frozen, Barack Obama takes a step over toward him, grabs his arm like, hey, bud, kind of gives him like that little toddler tug, like, hey, it's time to go, kiddo. And Biden gets the message, oh, yeah, we're leaving. And he starts to walk. And you can see Obama put his hand on his back. And some people are saying that Obama basically led him off or kept his hand on him to make sure he didn't have any other freezes or deviations, because he does that defective Roomba thing like he did in Normandy last week or a couple weeks ago. And now that the tape is out there, people were sharing it out, saying, look, he had a freeze again. Well, the counter to that, because how do you argue with the videotape, is a whole bunch of people who are going out there saying he didn't freeze. This was a selectively edited tape. Here's what really happened. And then they show you a selectively edited tape to make their case. And you also had Karine Jean-Pierre come out and say that wasn't a freeze at all. Whoever says that to you is lying. And you saw it with your own eyes. You don't believe what you saw with your own eyes. So I am enjoying watching these people have to defend what anyone can see with their own eyes. Let me give you a sample of how do you defend this. I find this so fascinating. All right, you're not going to know who a lot of these people are, but they are big left-wing influencers, all on X/Twitter, and they all have hundreds of thousands. Some of them have millions of followers. But David Hogg said, in response to the original New York Post story about, hey, Joe Biden freezes and has to be let off by Obama, like that's the headline, he says, for the record, this did not happen and is a total lie. Go watch the video. Go watch the unedited video. There's plenty of people who had cell phone video of an unedited clip from a good angle where you can see everything I described happen. And it's not that big of a deal. It doesn't disqualify him from running for president or from being president. But Harry Sisson says MAGA is lying again. The new lie is that Biden had to be let off stage by Obama and that he froze, but that is completely false. Well, it's not completely false. Whether or not he had to be let off stage, he was let off stage. I don't know if he had to be or if he would have figured it out if we had let him sit there and he would have unfroze after a few seconds. but it did happen. It's not completely false. You may question the motive or whether or not it was going to happen naturally anyway, but you can't say it's completely false. Brian Tyler Cohen said right-wing media is becoming so desperate, they're just making up fake stories out of thin air. Bro, nobody's desperate on this one. This is about the 500,000th video you have seen of Joe Biden looking dazed and confused. And it's probably not hard to come up for anybody who's in their 80s. You could probably find quite a few videos of me looking dazed and confused too. Why are they pretending like it didn't happen? Why are they pretending like something you saw with your own eyes? They're still telling you this didn't happen. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a 7-year-old girl in the front row. I think I had that part wrong. Well, corrections are in order. Alex Vindman says, rag, propaganda, garbage, peeing into the wind because New York City will still vote for Biden bigly. It's not propaganda. It happened. They have the video posted. Rufus Gifford said nothing remotely close to this actually happened. Dude, for all the people who are so concerned about disinformation or the truth or fact checking, they are going out there and straight up trying to tell you that what you saw with your own eyes didn't happen. And again, Rufus, you can't say nothing remotely close to this actually happened. Something remotely close to this happened. It may not be 100% correct, and we have no way of knowing whether or not he had to be let off stage, but he was let off stage. Obama went over there and grabbed him by the arm, got his attention, put his hand on his back, curved him around to the offstage. Andrew Bates says, fresh off of being fact-checked by at least 6 mainstream outlets for lying about POTUS with cheap fakes, Rupert Murdoch's sad little super PAC, the New York Post, is back to disrespecting its readers and itself once again. Yes, telling the truth is disrespecting your readers. Angela Bel Camino, she's the Biden girl with the 5 head. She said this video does not show Biden freezing up and being led off stage by Obama. Damn, your eyes are deceiving you again. Juanita Broderick, one of Bill Clinton's first rapes that we know of, said they're scared S-less, shirtless, but you know, the ugly version of it. Every time Joe goes on stage or opens his mouth, they are vomiting fear. And it's beautiful. How weird would it be to be her and having to comment on politics on Twitter these days? But there's a reason most of the people that were making these criticisms of the original New York Post story, they weren't posting the actual video. They didn't post an unedited video. But look, I'm not saying he's full-blown senile and demented, but the videos don't lie. He walks different than he used to. He has a gait that is indicative of someone who is in mental decline. He does have weird gaps in speech patterns and articulation. It's okay. If that was my guy, I would be making the case that, hey, a free market capitalist who's a little bit senile and walks funny is way better than a socialist who can hop, skip, and jump the Ninja Warrior course. But it's like he's not totally gone. It just feels like are you a gamer or are you too old? Because ask your kids when they're playing Xbox and you know how they don't wire the controllers in. They're wireless. So every once in a while, the controller will lose connection with the console unexpectedly in the middle of the game you're playing. And you have to wait for about 10, maybe 15 seconds for your controller to sync back up. And on your screen, your dude is sitting completely still, frozen in whatever position he was in when the controller disconnected. Meanwhile, the action's going on all around. The whole game's still happening. There's bullets flying or whatever. And then after about 15 seconds, your controller reconnects and you go back to whatever you were doing. That's what it looks like. It looks like you just dropped your controller for a few seconds and whoever's running the Biden robot, it reconnected and you got going. But your eyes are not lying. He did freeze, and that's okay. It's okay. You don't have to lie about it. It's okay. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Thank you for all the people who've already reached out, answering some of my questions I was asking a few segments ago. Looking for where you're watching the debate party, where the party's going to be if you're already having one. And I'm not asking to be invited to your house for dinner. Just saying, if you're already having a party and it's open to the public, let me know, because I really don't have plans. And this is going to be, I don't think I've had this much fun leading up to a debate, because this is sort of, it has the same feeling that you had when the debates in 2020 were about to go down, because Joe Biden was already showing some signs of slowing down and having some weird moments. And there was a prediction by a lot of people that mentally speaking, he wouldn't be able to last for 90 minutes on a stage with Trump. And Trump went out there with the purposeful interruptions that he kept doing. He was trying to break him. He was trying to make him snap. He's trying to make him do that angry dementia thing, that your grandpa does when he starts yelling at grandma because he can't find the remote. And it didn't work. It didn't work. Joe Biden passed the test in 2020. That's the big part of the reason why he's your president right now is he was able to weather through 2 of those. You heard similar predictions about the State of the Union, but he powered through that, didn't he? He spoke for a whole hour uninterrupted with no help. I mean, there was teleprompters there, and I don't know if he had like a cocaine IV drip or something going through his arms, but whatever they drugged him up with, or if they drugged him up at all, it worked. So here we are, 4 years down the road of decline, and he does look a little worse than he did in 2020, but he's proven the ability to at least stand up there and say things for an hour, hour and a half. And if he cruises through this is going to come straight down to who has the better turnout, Team Red or Team Blue, because from most people's observation, this country is, at least the people that go out and vote, they're pretty well split down the middle between Team Red and Team Blue. This is going to be an operation of who gets off their couch. But the odds are greater than ever that what you may have been hoping for in the 2020 debates, or even at the State of the Union earlier this year, the freeze. Is there going to be a freeze? Is he going to freak out, or is something going to happen that makes Joe Biden be an untenable candidate? That's the amazing thing that could happen at this debate that's happening next week that's never happened in a debate in your lifetime. Some dude could do so bad, or just really, he doesn't even have to do that bad. If he just confirms the narrative that a lot of people are concerned about on both left and right, this is the thing that could cause him to finally be replaced. And if you say, James, who are they going to replace him with? I don't know. But Joe Biden and Donald Trump have not had to square off in the same room and exchange verbal exchanges since that 2020 election. And so it'll be interesting to see that, okay, maybe Joe Biden can power through a 1 hour long State of the Union address all hopped up, but he's not having anyone hitting the tennis ball back at him. That's a one-way delivery of a monologue. That's not an exchange. That's not accepting criticism. That's not having to hear, comprehend, and respond to what someone's throwing at you totally unexpected. Everything you've seen him do in public in the last 3-4 years has been scripted. He knew who he was gonna call on at the few press conferences he had. He knew what the questions were going to be. And remember, Trump just has that sort of personality that really could be the candle that lights the fuse on the Trump dementia meltdown. For a good example of that, I go to Shane McGillis, the comedian, who was pointing out some fun personality quirks of Donald Trump.
The night the United States killed the leader of ISIS, Trump comes out of the Situation Room at like midnight, walks up in front of the entire world at midnight and just goes, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. Meanest talk you've ever heard in front of the whole world. Abu. We could hear him crying. I said, Abu, don't cry. Let me tell you something. Abu cried. He cried quite a bit. I wouldn't have cried. Crybaby Baghdadi, that's what we were all called. So they killed him with dogs and a robot. And then made fun of him for crying. Let that guy cry. That's the scariest death I've ever heard of. That dude was laying in his bed in the middle of the night. His wall exploded. 10 dogs and a robot broke into Dude, 10 dogs wearing helmets and goggles broke into his house. The Paw Patrol, the actual Paw Patrol.
All right, so where's the party going to be for the debate? Let me know. James@WBAP.com, or a couple people have already found me on Facebook. It's not that hard. I have a generic name. You know how to spell it. So find me. Let me know where the debate watching party is at. Thank you for the 3 people who have already recommended a gun range. You guys are great. And if you have any other comments for the show, it'll just have to wait until tomorrow. Coming up next, Mark Levin and then Chris Crock, and I'll be back to do this from 2 to 5 every weekday right here on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.